I'm not sure what's going on with my computer, but even amid those little interludes where it kind of faded out, there's just something about Mozart. You just can't compare him to anything. Apparently he was quite an interesting fellow, and I'm sure Bill O'Rourke could speak to the caricature and the nature of Mozart in much greater eloquence and detail than I could. But all of us have seen the movie kind of depicting him, but what a brilliant mind for music, huh? I thought on these last two layers of genuine cowhide I would go ahead and flip over to a decorative stitch real quick that's inserted in this machine that belongs to Mr. Dave Ray. I had to look it up, folks. It's been kind of a flood of sickness and racing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but you saw a number of different sew-offs, and you'll notice something else unique about this Husqvarna CL21A, and that is that I have it set up with a walking foot. I don't know that I've demonstrated a Swedish Beauty with a walking foot before, and this is my walking foot. This is not something that Dave provided. It's nothing that is going to follow this machine. It's going to stay with me unless Dave is really a good sweet talker and can talk me into sending it with him. So, but let me line up some of these sew-offs I've already done, and I'm going to do another sew-off on top of what you saw during that music opening with Mozart. Let's see if I can line these up in some sort of order. And obviously his goal is to do nylon webbing. He said, man, if we can get 2 layers down, that would be awesome, which I certainly could do after I took this machine through the rigors of my finalization process and doing all the things that needed to be done to get it back to where it needed to be. But I could not do 3 layers, and it's not because this CL21A, which has a 1.5 amp motor, wouldn't be able to get the job done. In other words, it wouldn't have enough strength. That's not the issue. The issue then comes down to clearance underneath the presser foot. So here on the end is that decorative stitch, which I believe was stitch number 4 on the cam. Let me take a look. Yep, stitch number 4. As you probably know, on any of the green machines that take the black cams, they all are going to have a zigzag built into that cam in position 5, which is how I did most of the sew-offs with the exception of this one right here. I then moved it to position 4 and did kind of like a block type stitch pattern. I just didn't make it short enough, and I made it a little bit too wide. But you can see here what we went through. 2 layers of this genuine cowhide, which is probably about 12 to 14 ounces of leather. That's no easy task, folks, trust me. And look at it from the side. And yet it laid down a spectacular top stitch and a lock stitch. I'll flip all these over, I have no problem with that. Then we did some full grain leather, and we laid down a zigzag over here. You see that zigzag is just absolutely spot on as well. And I believe that was that 1 layer or 2? I don't remember. That was 2 layers. Yep, there's the second layer underneath there. So we did 2 layers of genuine cowhide to the left there, and then we did 2 layers of this full grain leather with a zigzag here just to the right of that genuine cowhide that we laid the decorative stitch down on. And then we've got this really cool, I think it's really cool, maybe I'm entertained easily, but we have this really cool snakeskin leather combination where we laid down both a straight stitch and a zigzag. And both of them are just absolutely spot on. They're absolutely as they should be. The spacing, the formation, and that was 2 layers of that stuff. You can kind of see, if you look real close, you can see that leather on the inside, and then the snakeskin is on the outside. And it laid down both a zigzag and a straight stitch. That's absolutely brag-worthy. And then finally, just next to the pillar, if I can actually get it, where am I? There it is. Then we laid down a zigzag on 2 layers of this super difficult, and I didn't mention, incredibly slippery, ridiculously slippery. It's got to be slipperier than a baby's bottom. Let me just put it that way. This is baby's bottom nylon webbing. It's extremely slippery, and so even using this walking foot, I could tell that, you know, it was really having to work to move that material over those feed dogs. It was really having to work. So let me go ahead and flip all of these over so we can look at the lock stitch as well. So I'll do it on the cowhide first. Full grain leather, snakeskin, and I think I'm going to move the snakeskin out of position next to the pillar just so we can look at this sew-off that really is instrumental to what Dave is looking to do. We can look at that a little bit closer. I think we can still see the snakeskin just fine as well. So now we're looking at the lock stitch on these 4 sew-offs that we did with Mozart as an opening. There again we're seeing those 2 layers of genuine cowhide. We're seeing that kind of building block decorative stitch pattern that I laid down through 2 layers of genuine cowhide, folks. 14 ounces of leather, and we did a decorative stitch through it. I mean, that's saying something about where the power of this Swedish Beauty is now compared to where it was when Dave brought it to me just less than 2 weeks ago. And then we have this next one here with protected full grain. We did that zigzag, which is absolutely spectacular as well. And then I moved it on a sequence so we could see it a little bit closer. Now we're looking at the lock stitch on the zigzag we laid down on these 2 layers of nylon webbing. You can see from the side there, folks. Can you see that from the side? That is ridiculously thick. We're probably talking 14, maybe close to 16 ounces of nylon webbing. And I'm not sure what the tensile rating is on this stuff. I know that Dave is hoping to use it to make different harnesses and stuff that he's going to be using in hunting applications. Kind of like you can suspend yourself from the tree and sit in a saddle, you know, 15, 20 feet off the ground. And so, needless to say, he wanted to know that that stitch that machine was putting down was a trustworthy stitch. And I'm hoping he's not going to use a regular Coates and Clark type thread. Hopefully he's going to go towards a Kevlar thread or something like that that's going to be rot resistant, weather resistant, and also have a lot stronger tensile strength than a standard Coates and Clark polyester blend type thread. I certainly would recommend that. And then last but not least, we have the Lockstitch on the zigzag and the straight stitch we did through these 2 layers of genuine snakeskin / leather. It's a leather snakeskin combination. So all of the stitching that this machine has done, again using this cool walking foot. And normally what this machine would be equipped with, if I can, maybe I'll set it right on top of that leather there. Normally what it would be equipped with is what I would call kind of a multi-purpose foot. It can be used for straight, it can be used for zigzag, it can be used pretty much for anything, decorative stitching. That's typically the foot that this machine will be running with when you're doing the vast amount of work type projects that you would be doing. And it's a great versatile type foot. The only problem is it doesn't really have any grooving on the bottom. And so when it comes to slippery stuff like Dave's nylon webbing, it's not the ideal foot to be using. It's got a little bit of grooving on the back, on the butt of the attachment, but that's it. And that's that's why I think he should probably go towards a foot that's going to have a little bit more bite on it, a foot that's going to be able to grip that material a little bit better and move it evenly over the feed dogs. A walking foot does that, I think, quite well. A roller foot would do it quite well, and those are readily available for Swedish Beauties as aftermarket pieces. This walking foot I have on it right now is an original walking foot. It's not an aftermarket, and it seems to do a real decent job. And it fits the presser foot bar, which a lot of attachments will not. You'll have to really be careful. Husqvarna foot attachments, I'll kind of pivot this one up and you can look at it close, are going to be a low shank, but they're also going to be squared. It's going to have kind of a square fit to it. See how that's kind of squared in there? Squared / rectangular. So you're really going to have to make sure that that attachment that you get, if you get one for your Husqvarna, that it's going to fit that presser foot bar snugly and properly so that it doesn't shift or it doesn't do anything wonky on you when you're trying to use it. Okay? All right, let's come out on this shot a little bit. And I don't have the extension bed because Dave didn't bring an extension bed. I don't know if he has one. I think he does. And part of what I did for Dave's, I'll just mention this before I forget. I don't do a lot on eBay. I used to do a lot on eBay as far as selling restored machines and everything. Used to do the whole thing. But I stopped probably 6-7 years ago at least. But I do offer now an aftermarket to the OEM specs, a long belt and also a short belt for the Husqvarna Viking, not just the green machines, it fits a variety of them. It lists all of them in my listing. These are the ones that were on Dave's machine. So this isn't the one I'm offering. And under close scrutiny, we'll look at pictures on Facebook. These belts were glazed, they were cracking, they were losing their constitution, which means they weren't doing a good job in giving that machine good launch and good sustained power. So these are the old ones. I'm going to move these out of the way. The replacement ones that I offer is this long belt here that's a V-style belt, but it's cogged as well for even better grip on the pulleys. And then this short belt that is, again, original OEM specs as far as the original ones that were made in Sweden. So if you ever decide you want to check me out on eBay, you can certainly do that. I offer the belts separately. Believe it or not, the little one in the middle is more expensive than the big one. The big one is around 25 bucks. The little one is 40 some dollars, just because they're really difficult to get a hold of. And there's only so many routes that you can go to try to get them. So between the two, you're looking at, well, probably around 65, 70 bucks. Around 70 bucks plus once you go into shipping and that. But I'll tell you one thing, I literally just shipped one overseas, and the customer was so elated as far as the difference it made in the performance of their Swedish Beauty. Again, a lot of people will get disenchanted with Swedish Beauties and other very, very high-end machines because they are not operating at an optimal level. That could be a belt issue. It could be the way the machine is timed or tuned. It could be a variety of other things that I address when I go through a detailed service and cleaning and tuning on a machine like Dave's. Complete service and tuning on a machine like this is right around 150 bucks. And if you bring it to the workshop, there's no shipping obviously involved, but if you ship it here, then you would have the cost of return shipping as well. But I'll tell you one thing, when you get that machine back, you're going to be like, that was an investment, but it was worth every single penny. Dave is not going to believe when he sits down to this machine as to what it does now versus what it did when he brought it to me. The proof's in the pudding. You've seen these sew-offs. The machine just roars with no difficulty whatsoever in going through them. So I'm loving it. And no, I'm not talking about McDonald's, but I do eat there occasionally. All right. So that was a shameless plug for the two belts that I offer for the green machines and a variety of other, these will work on a variety of other Husqvarnas as well. So, reach out. I can send you the link through eBay if you have trouble finding me. My screen name is kind of different. It's King of Kettle Corn. If you want to look me up on eBay, King of Kettle Corn. And there's a story behind that I won't go into right now. All right, so let me move these sew-offs to the side that we just did, including the 2 layers of this nylon webbing that Dave was really, really hoping to get through. Again, this machine would easily, at this point, be able to do the 3 layers, but there's just not quite enough presser foot clearance. You can get around that. You could certainly take this walking foot off, and you could, in a free embroidery sense, you could walk material underneath it. You could also drop the feed dogs, which any of you that are savvy about Husqvarnas, you know that this little knob right here, if you turn it clockwise, it's going to let those feed dogs drop, and you could manually bring those 3 layers potentially underneath the presser foot with the feed dogs dropped, and just you be the feed dogs and moving that material. There's a variety of different cheats you can use to try to use a machine going through layers that by natural design and clearance it's not able to do it. And that's kind of where we're at here with this Husqvarna CL21A. It's got more than enough power now. It's got more than enough capacity to go through 3 layers of this nylon webbing that Dave was hoping to be able to do. It just doesn't have the clearance. So he'll have to, when he comes to pick it up, I can offer him some suggestions, as I've just done, on how he might be able to bypass that. But otherwise, it comes down to, there are ways to manually raise the presser foot bar as well. Actually give it more clearance. It's not real difficult, but again, whenever you go to modifying the machine, if you go to resume sewing and doing other standard sewing, you may run into some problems. So, all right, blah, 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 blah. Let's do the last sew off, which is going to be on US Army grade canvas, and we're only going to do 2 layers of it, but I'm going to go all the way down this strip, and we're going to be going through all of the stitches that are on the cam in the rear of the machine right now. And I have a confession. I don't know which cam it is. I think it's cam A. I think it's cam A, but I'm not absolutely sure. Here, let me zoom down on the presser foot, and I will sneak in the back real quick and see if I can see what it is. It looks like actually cam B. Yep, I think it's cam B. As best as I can see, it's cam B. And that actually kind of rhymes a little bit, doesn't it? All right. So hopefully my camera will focus again, and I will grab a quick drink of water. And actually I could come out on this a little bit, then you can see me make the changes. Let's do it kind of like this. Does that work? Yeah, I think that'll work. And I won't put on Mozart again as much as I like him. I will put on a royal one for His Highness, who has been patiently in the background. Let's see what this one sounds like. Yeah. There's His Highness right there, keeping a close eye on things. And the reason I'm going to have it like this is because I'm going to have to change between the different cam settings to generate all these stitches. All right, I'm going to drink a quick little drink of water too. Oh boy. Still not 100% yet, folks. Still not 100%. All right, so we're starting with a standard zigzag, which is in position 5 on all of the black cams that go in the green machines. And I'll sew down a little bit with that, and then I'll switch to 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, and that'll wrap it up. All right, here we go. Oh, and I have to make an adjustment on a couple of things real quick here. All right, there we go. And always make sure your needle is out of the material when you're switching. Wasn't quite long enough, was it? So now we're down to number 2. And I'm running out of room here. I thought this was plenty long. And the last one, number 1. Here we go. All right. Well, let's see what we got. I think I ended up, again, I never follow the settings. I should go to the book and actually follow the settings that they recommend. I really should. So I will, let me just set this down. Looks like I actually did a straight stitch on the last one. Oh, how's the best way to set this up here? Yeah, I don't like these settings. I didn't do a real good job on. Oh well. But it does generate some pretty stitches, that's for sure. Okay. So this was excuse me. This was a very tiny, it's almost like a an overlay type stitch on the end there. It's kind of hard to see it. Now we got our little swishy wishy type stitch here, and you can see I could have shortened it up quite a bit more. Then we've got almost like a shell type pattern. We've got our little block pattern, which again I could have shortened that up. And then our final little stitch here, which is almost kind of like an overlay stitch as well. So it's just kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be able to zip through those. And you'll notice I do a reset between each movement of the stitch setting on here before I go to move it to each stitch setting so that it moves with ease and it doesn't catch. I zero out the stitch width, bring it down to 0, and then move the stitch and then move it back to position 4 again as far as stitch width. And it just allows that to move with a great deal more ease. It doesn't catch. The cams sometimes will catch when you're moving them, which you know, is awkward. So there you have it. This CL21A is ready to go. It's a very happy camper, as you've seen through all the various stitch offs that we did. And I know that Dave is going to be able to certainly get his job done a lot easier than he was when this machine came here. So stay tuned for other videos like this where we're going to really kind of show the transformation of a machine. And speaking of transformation, I need to share for those folks that do not do Facebook some of the pictures that show the progress shots of Dave's machine. As I was taking it through finalization, cleaning, adjustments, and all the other good stuff that had to be done to it. I'm just wiping my computer off a little bit real quick, and we'll just take a peek at some of these pictures as well, so you can see. Those of you that don't do Facebook, you have an opportunity to see those also. Yeah, it looks like I'm getting a little bit of a reflection off there, aren't I? Let's see if I can eliminate that. Is it coming from over there or from behind me? Ah, it must be coming from behind me. Nope, not that one. Let's see here. Is it that one? It's not that one either. Maybe it's just my screen. Oh, let's see here. Maybe the angle of the screen, huh? Is that better or worse? I think that's better, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. So here's just an opening shot. You got Dr. Singer in the background, and that was just kind of a shot that I took so I could have a way of determining what the order of the photos was. And here I've got the free arm disassembled, and I'm just cleaning a number of the integral parts that are in conjunction with the feed dogs, in conjunction with the raceway area drive and everything that comes all the way across that shaft from the main drive. And also you can see there's some key oiling pads down there as well that are really essential to keep lubricated. Not soaked. You'll see in some of the shots here where Dave, I would assume, in an effort to try to make the machine perform better, had just soaked the thing to death with oil, where it was actually, when I tilted the machine back, it was actually running out the bottom of the machine almost like a river. And here I've got the retainer plate and also the hook system out of the machine. Those all have to be cleaned. And I think this is after. The problem with the design on these Husqvarna retaining plates, where the thread moves very quickly across those surfaces, is it ends up creating ruts. It actually, through the friction and through the motion of that thread over and over and over again, going over it, it actually digs into that plastic and creates grooves that then starts to catch the thread and cause thread breaking. So here I've gone through a very careful process of sanding down some of those ruts and getting that surface more even so that it's not going to potentially catch, especially if Dave ends up using a thread that's a little bit heavier and would be more inclined to get caught in there. Yeah, that was the after shot. Here you can really see how bad off it was. Can you see that? That should be smooth all the way across. These are the ruts right here I'm talking about, where it's gotten torn apart so badly by the thread over time that it's so uneven and it's rutted that the thread, you know, just gets caught in there, and it just creates all kinds of havoc. So again, my photos are not, unfortunately, in order. You're seeing here when it was not repaired, and I guess I could go back. It's only a couple back. You know, that's the before. Yeah, and is that the after? Yeah, that's the after. So again, if you zoom in and visualize in your mind how it looked, getting that surface so that it's even across there is really the goal. Yeah, you can see again, it's real obvious. So here I've tilted the machine back. I'm going to start servicing a number of the areas on the bottom. There's probably close to 30 areas on the bottom of the Husqvarna green machine that require either servicing or adjustments. Here's more of a practical issue that I addressed. Inevitably, on these Husqvarna Vikings, the little pedestal feet on the bottom, which are a rubberized material, will break down. I think some of my other shots will show that. Yeah, this one shows it clearly. They break down, and here you basically have no cushion for that machine to ride on whatsoever. So if you're, let's say if you put this Husqvarna on some sort of a wood table where there's no cushion underneath it, you're going to get a lot of extra vibration. So I use a process of an adhesive and then new non-skid pads to replace the old ones on the bottom. There's a little bit of preparation that has to be done to the old pad surface so that it adheres properly, but it really does make a heck of a difference. Here I've taken off one of the panels on the bottom that's going to give you access to a number of things, and I'm just in the process of servicing those. It looks like I've already cleaned this little catch pan that goes on the bottom of here. That little opening goes up into the machine to catch the extra oil, and also, as you may have seen in the Facebook shots, also caught a little critter at some point, and the critter did not survive. That's the cover for the access to one of the motor brushes on the bottom, and that also was just filthy. As you can see, I had to clean that up. Dirt is, well, you can't see that. There it is. Dirt is not the friend of our machines. We need to try to keep them clean and get rid of them. And here I'm doing some specialized lubrication to one of the critical points. That's going to be, actually, no, I'm in the wrong spot. I apologize. Here I'm addressing one of the motor brush issues where we actually have a broken lead on it, and I'm going to be removing that and then go ahead and put in a new motor brush. And obviously cleaning the well as well. So I'm using a tool to try to extract that. These are some of the caps that go over the motor brushes. And again, they're copper for a reason. Connectivity when it comes to completing that electrical field in the motor is absolutely essential. So you also have to make sure that when you're replacing motor brushes that you're also going through and cleaning all copper contacts, including the inside of these caps as well. And here we've got some of the cleaning that we're doing on the inside of the motor. That's going to be the fan, obviously, that moves air to try to keep that motor running cool. And you can just see at every turn you know, addressing the dirt issue around the motor area. Again, the motor acts like a vacuum cleaner, so it's going to be pulling all of the dirt towards that area. And here I'm inspecting wiring as well, and I did find a motor lead wire that's really essential that it pulled out of position a little bit. See that bare wire right here? So that had to be adjusted so that it was properly seated and wouldn't possibly ground out on the metal housing. Just more cleaning. The well that Q-tip is down in obviously goes all the way down to the main drive for the motor, which is a central part of the electrical field. So again, just cleaning every surface that has dirt, oil, or any other buildup on it. There's our little friend. I have no idea what kind of bug it is. It's yucky, as some of you had said as well when you saw it on Facebook. But obviously he or she, it, was alive and well in there at one point, and then just over time, due to oils and heat and God knows what else, did not survive. But here you can see, if I can zoom in on it, you can just see how filthy and all that excess oil, see all that brown, that's all literally dripping when I took it off. So let me say it again. A little bit of oil is a real good thing. I usually recommend about every 10 to 12 hours of sewing. But to this extent, it's over the top. It's actually going to cause problems with the performance of the machine. It's not going to help it. So do not over oil your machines, please. And here again, we're just doing additional oiling. No, we're not. We're looking at the oil. I've got a reflection on the screen right now, folks. I'm not going blind. But here you can see actually a pool of oil in that same area as I tilted the machine back that actually ran out like a little river tributary with all the extra oil that had built up in the bottom of the machine. Again, it was just oil too much. And here I'm just doing some caliper checks on motor brushes, making sure that they're going to be exactly fitting as they should be. Again, motor brushes should be like a glove. They should fit, not loosely, but they should fit nice and snug, but not too snug. And here again, you can just see I'm getting some extra oil off. This is going to be right at the bottom of the motor. Getting some more of that oil off of there that's dripping down. And here we've got a special solution that I'm adding to the inside of the foot controller. The foot controller that Dave brought with the machine was not the correct one, and I didn't show that. I'll actually bring it over by the computer. And this foot controller is only rated at 1 amp. I'll set it like right there. Hopefully that's not too much in the way. You can see someone adapted it with the correct plug and such. So yeah, I'm just doing a special solution bath to prep that. And here's the foot controller that Dave brought with it. You can see the correct plug is on there. But this foot controller is only rated for 1 amp. And again, this CL21A is 1.5 amps. So it's underserving the motor, and also will have a tendency, because the motor is trying to demand more than that foot controller is capable of providing, it'll cause the foot controller to break down and actually overheat. And in extreme circumstances, it could catch fire. So again, it's just like folks that have sent me their motors. They've sent me their motors and foot controllers. You can't service one without the other. So as I optimize a machine to do a certain type of sewing, I also service in great detail that foot controller. And some parts of the machine are overlooked when it comes to lubrication. The inside of this balance wheel is a part that tends to dry out and be overlooked, and it's a part that I always include in my service program. You can see I just have the cover off on the bottom down there where those two belts were replaced, the main drive for the motor and then also the drive that comes up to the main shaft and drives down to the needle. And that's actually the inside of the balance wheel. Again, there's different clean points on there as well that will have a tendency to get oil and gook and other buildup like that. And you just have to make sure that those areas are also cleaned, and certain points of those areas also have to be lubricated. And there's the main groove that is kind of out of sight, out of view on the grain machines. It's actually on the inside of the machine that long belt that I showed you that I sell through eBay rides over. And again, you can just see on that Q-tip, just with a few swabs, how much oil and gook and dirt builds up in those areas that those belts ride over. And that's another area that has to be properly serviced with the right kind of solvent that's not going to leave any residue behind, but leave a nice clean surface to maximize the traction. And there's the bobbin winding assembly that I took out. A lot of cleaning had to be done on that as well. There's a lot of moving parts to allow that slow gear to be engaged and just the pulley systems to move freely. And I would say there's probably close to 30 points on that assembly that either have to be cleaned, lubricated, or in other ways serviced. And there you can see kind of the, as I'm cleaning that and getting all the yuckiness off of it, basically paper towel that's just catching all of the extra gook and dirt. Again, these are out of order. The one you saw before was after it was cleaned. Here you can still see there's a lot of cleaning that has to be done on it. As the Q-tip testifies on both ends. Yeah, just more cleaning. Again, you don't want to leave any dirt behind. Kind of like never leave a soldier behind. So all these well areas in here, and again, that especially due to the over-oiling that Dave had done on the machine, there's just so many things that have to be cleaned out of there. Otherwise, they eventually will migrate and stick to all the surfaces that you may have cleaned, and then your effort is for naught. So you try to get all of that yuckiness out of there, so that you've got a great clean surface. And there you can see I'm swabbing the different areas and trying to get all that oil, all that dirt, all that gook out of there so that it's not going to be migrating around our motor and other parts that we don't want it to be sticking to. And that looks like the main shaft that the balance wheel mounts on. That also requires both cleaning and lubrication. And that little pin right there you can see actually has to be taken out as well and cleaned, because that's going to be fitting on the inside of the balance wheel to be the source of driving it and putting it into locomotion. So you've got to do a number of things with that pin as well. And there I'm just showing, I think, the original belt. Where is it? Showing the original belt and just the condition of it. It's starting to fray, it's starting to expand, and it's losing its effectiveness. And that's why, as part of the service for Dave's machine, both belts were replaced as well. Here I'm doing some checks on, again, I found machines where people, I don't know if they're testing me or what, but I've found machines where they actually have loosened screws. So here I'm on the inside of the foot controller, and I'm just verifying that all the leads are positioned correctly and that all the set screws that hold them in place are secured properly as well. And there's also cleaning to be done, obviously, inside of there as well. So along with checking the electrical settings and everything else, is also cleaning. And then you can see there what it looked like on the inside of the machine where the motor is before I did all that swabbing that you kind of saw out of sequence. That's all buildup of, you name it, oil, dirt, grit, grime, probably a little bit of bug guts. You never know. And here we're just continuing to go through the cleaning process, getting ready to switch the belts out. And here I'm just showing, that looks like the short belt that goes between the motor and the pulley system. And I'm just showing a bulge on there, almost like you get on a bad tire. That material starts to separate, it starts to punch out. And then that belt is not riding evenly on the pulleys. It's not getting good traction. And you can see on my fingers as well, just the evidence of how filthy it is. So, you know, these are just things that, again, if you take your Swedish Beauty to your local technician, trust me, 80% of what you see in these still shots, they're never, ever going to address them. They probably don't know how. Not trying to be offensive, I'm just being honest. Here again, we're looking at the pulley system, and we're looking at process of adjustments and cleaning. And this is obviously when the pulley system was first taken out. The pulley assembly still needs a lot of cleaning and adjustments and lubrication in certain parts as well. And again, this is an essential piece. I mean, your main long belt rides over it, your short belt rides over it, your slow gear and your automatic clutch disengagement is all part of this assembly. So dirt and excess oil and other things like that are going to inhibit it from doing its job as it was designed to do. And here I think I'm at the very beginning of the process, just beginning to take the different panels off and begin to move towards the goal of sewing this stuff right there shown in the shot. And we certainly accomplished that. Again, I wish we could do 3 layers, but there's just not enough presser foot clearance. 2 layers, like a walk in the park. And that's it. That's full round. So, Dave, your machine was in pretty bad shape, my friend. Definitely not up to the standards of His Highness. You can actually see he's kind of had that kind of look of disappointment, like, wow, why'd you let that thing go so far? But I think Dave recently acquired this machine, so it's not Dave's fault. Dave deserves credit for doing a search and finding me as a local person that he could bring this machine to. He lives north of me, probably about 30 to 45 minutes, and works in the shipyards, and brought the machine down and needs to come back now and pick it up. So but this is a very happy Swedish Beauty now. She's ready to get the job done. She's ready to go to work, and you've seen that evidenced in all the various sew-offs that we did. So that's it, folks. You know, that's that's all. So stay tuned for other great videos like this. God bless you, and thank you for your prayers and thoughts. I'm feeling like I'm starting to ramp back up again, but I don't want to go too fast, too quick, or I'll probably end up in bed again. So thanks again for those of you that have kept me in thought and prayer, and watch for other great videos like this. Take care, folks.